As we said in the introductory shir, the main title of this course on Jewish business ethics is going to be really ownership, different aspects of ownership. So therefore I'm going to miss out chapters 2 and 3 of Pure Money for the moment, which deal with theft. We go to chapter 4, which deals with how do you acquire ownership. First of all, what difference does it make how you acquire ownership? When someone buys a house, it can take months from the beginning of the final decision between the buyer and the seller, that the buyer is going to buy and the seller is going to sell, and they've agreed on a price. It can take months, and sometimes even much longer than months, even years, until the property is finally registered in the name of the new buyer. What happens if during this time there's an earthquake and the house is destroyed? Whose loss is it? A guy bought a new car, paid for the car, went to collect his new car. He got phoned up, the car's ready, came along to get the car. The salesman took him out to the car park. He said, "Listen, I'm very sorry, sir, but last night a lorry crashed into here and smashed your car." "That was my car. You hadn't given it to me. It's not my car yet. It's your car. You have to give me another car." Who's right? Someone bought a new fridge. The delivery man arrived. He said, "Listen, I'm sorry, we had a car accident on the way over here. The fridge was damaged. Your fridge was damaged. My fridge, you hadn't yet delivered it to me, but you'd paid for it. Whose fridge is it at the time it was damaged?" Even more so, you walk into the supermarket to buy a bottle of milk, and you've taken it off the shelf, and someone knocks into you, and the milk, the bottle gets broken, or the carton gets torn, and the guy runs off. Do you have to pay for that bottle of milk, or don't you? When was the transfer of ownership? It's a vital question in Jewish business ethics. Any transaction has many, many stages to it. The first stage is the thought, the idea. Yeah, I'm going to buy that. Then people go around checking the marketplace, finding where they can get it cheapest. And then they found the cheapest place, and they'll decide, yeah, I'm going to buy from here. And at the moment, it's all in their head. That's the first stage, a final decision to buy. The second stage is the verbal agreement. You sit down with the seller, the buyers and the seller sit down together, and they come to a final agreement about all the details of the sale. The main detail of the sale, of course, is the price. When's it going to be delivered? All sorts of other little things can also be important in the deal. And they come to a final decision. I'm going to buy for such and such a price, and you're going to sell for such and such a price. Does that create a binding obligation for the buyer to buy and the seller to sell? Or no? We haven't yet finished the negotiations. We haven't yet finished the deal yet. The next stage is paying money. Sometimes delivery will be taken before money's paid. Sometimes money will be paid up front, and then afterwards delivery will be taken. At what stage is there a change of ownership? The overriding rule in what causes a transfer of ownership is what we call Gemiras Das. A final decision by the buyer and the seller that we are now buying and selling. All the different forms of kinyonim, of transferring ownership that we'll see and we'll discuss in the coming shiurim, they're all just ways to show that there is total Gemiras Das, a final decision, a meeting of the minds between the buyer and the seller, that we are going to do a sale now. There's going to be a transfer of ownership. That is what decides. All the different ways that we transfer ownership that we'll see of kinyonim, contractual obligations, they just show that we have that Gemiras Das. So when is the obligation created? As we said, the first step is checking the market. Zero obligation. You walk into a shop, you ask prices. It's accepted nowadays that people ask prices without necessarily being serious about buying at the time. No obligation is created at that time. Not for the buyer to buy and not for the seller to sell. Now, once the buyer has made a positive decision that he wants to buy, we find that our sages tell us that the God-fearing should stay by their thoughts. That when you made a thought, a final